what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Battlefield Project Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Rhoda, and we are the podcast for people who understand that life is a battle and only the strong will thrive. I'm joined by my good friend, Amy Hesper here, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. But before I do, if I could, please ask everybody for a favor, which I do at the beginning of every episode. If you listen to this and you get any value out of it, if it teaches you something, if it makes you think, feel, and or if you think, you know what, my friend or family member should probably hear this message, please share the show on your social media or directly with one other person if you think it's going to resonate with them. The whole intent behind this podcast is pretty plain and simple, is we want to create as many positive ripple effects in the universe as we can. And my way of doing that is inviting guests on here who are going to be open and honest and authentic and courageous enough to share some of the battles that they've experienced in their life and how and why they fought their way through those battles, because I want every person out there to know that nobody in life goes untouched. Every single human being has battles that they must face. The difference between people who are living a good life and people who are kind of struggling in life, the people who are living that good, happy, fulfilled life, they have the courage and the fortitude to fight their way through those battles on a consistent basis, and they come out stronger on the other side. So my guests come here, they share those battles with you, and I hope it inspires you to realize no matter what you're going through in your life, you have the ability, the capability to fight your way through those battles, and there's nothing more positive you can do for your life and the people's lives that you touch than to fight your way through those battles. All right, so without further ado, I love this bio that you sent me, Amy, so I'm excited to read this. Amy is a best-selling author and inspirational fluid artist. She started using art to deal with the anxiety and stress of the lockdowns. It was a way to escape by pouring the day's emotions onto a canvas. Now she helps others do the same by using her art as a visual meditations to bring clarity and inspiration and find spiritual connections or healing. After 40 years of not accepting herself and finally being sick and tired of feeling unworthy and rejected, she wrote a book to love and accept herself. Amy makes it a point to encourage and support others so they believe in themselves. Her passion is creating and helping others feel seen, heard, and loved. And real quick, let me just summarize that for you. You're doing God's work and you're here for a reason. And I love how you put, everything you said right there, I think is what every human being was put on this earth to do. So thank you for doing what you're doing and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate the invite to be here today.
My sincere pleasure. So the floor is yours, Amy. Whatever you're comfortable sharing with the audience, a battle that you faced and then how and why you fought your way through that battle. Just like everyone else listening to this, I'm excited to learn from you.
Okay. So my battle throughout life has really been filled with a lot of loss, family loss. The first real loss that I ever experienced in my life was the death of my little brother when he was 12 years old. And with that being my first loss and not having the tools to know how to process that grief, it was extremely difficult to deal with. My family, of course, did not have the tools to be able to progress through grief or deal with grief or handle it in a good way of healing past that. It was a lot of anger between a lot of family members, myself included. And during that time, I was extremely angry with God because I didn't understand. I'm like, he's 12 years old. He has his whole life ahead of him. Why didn't you take me? I've been here, over 20 years. I've lived a good life so far. I would gladly trade places with him. But of course, that's not the way that things work out. And so the only thing that I knew after that was I want to ensure that I'll be able to see him again. And the following weekend, me and my other brother accepted Christ, was baptized, and I wish I could say that everything was, rainbows and, good sunshiny days after that, but it wasn't. I was still very angry, and the question why was front and center. And of course, then came depression and anxiety and extremely dark days, just because I was so enthralled of the self-pity, in a sense, because of the grief and not knowing how to process it in a good way. And so, it's good days, bad days. And I got to a point where I started thinking about suicide, because I just, that was just where I was in my headspace, and was just really struggling through that time. And as your audience may think, oh my gosh, when I say this, but God brought my brother to me in a dream, and it felt so real. I was able to, hug him, and it felt like I was really hugging him in this dream. And I kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I love you, I love you. And he was like, I know you do, because the day that he was in the ER after his accident and I was holding his hand, I was in so much shock of seeing him there in the yard that I never said anything. Like, I held his hand, but I never talked to him while he was laying there. And that haunted me in a sense, because I'm like, that was the last time, that I had the opportunity to say something to him, whether he would have really heard, because he was, kind of out of it. But I just felt really guilty. And then, of course, oh, I was not a good sister, and, I should have done more for him. And, all these sort of things that we typically think when we lose someone. It's the what ifs. I should have done this. I should have done this. When they were here, I'd give anything to go back and be able to, have more time with them. And so after that, the suicidal thoughts, they left. I didn't have that anymore, but I still had that question of why. And so, of course, that really started my faith journey after that. And I remember it was, I would say, several years after that. And I was just driving home one day, and I just felt like God said I had to take him to save others. And so when I heard that, it just kind of like caught me, in the heart. And I was like, wow, because me and my brother accepted Christ that next weekend. And then I also feel like my stepdad came to Christ from his death, because he started going to church some, and he would read the Bible. And growing up, that was not something that my mom or my stepdad did. Like, we didn't really go to church, every Sunday. It wasn't a very faith-filled home environment. From the standpoint of both of my parents, they drank. And so it was more domestic fights, domestic violence, and just like a mental and physical abuse on my part with my stepdad. We did not really get along, but I honestly feel like he did come to have a better relationship with Christ after my brother died. And I don't know why, but it really brought a little bit more peace in my heart about my brother's death. And it helped me to move past the thoughts of why, and the biggest thing that it helped me to come to understand was, even in the most difficult or painful of experiences, there is always something positive that can come from it. But now when you're going through it, it's going to be like, oh my God, there's no way anything positive can come through a situation such as this. But it really takes I guess, a determination, if if you can think of it that way, of choosing to focus on something more than the hurt and the pain. Because when you choose to focus on something better, then you can start to move forward. But if you continually stay stuck in the darkness, in the pain, then that's where you're going to stay. You're never going to be able to move past that. So it's the effort to help yourself heal, feel better, and just even be able to continue living life, and have a what's the word I'm looking for here, just to be able to continue to do your life, and whether you have family or a spouse, to continue to be there for them, and not just sort of waste away, if that makes sense.
Yep, totally. As you were talking there, bringing up some stuff for me too, because I think what you said is beautiful and powerful, and the way you said it with like the determination to kind of
Mhm.
like force yourself out of that victim dark stage, because I mean, totally natural, totally human to go through that. Like, to think otherwise would be ridiculous, and you'd be delirious to be like, oh no, like I could just skip that and go right to like, oh, I'm going to continue to live my life and be happy. Like, no, we all have that pain that you have to go through, but you have to go through it and you have to come out on the other side. I say to
Mhm.
people quite often, I think one of my superpowers in this life, and I'm extremely grateful for it because it's helped me through some difficult times with like losing my dad and stuff like that, is finding a silver lining in every situation. No matter how bad things get, there's always a silver lining to that. And thank you for sharing a story about your brother. And case in point, your story right there, like you could have that happen to you at a young age relative, to time, which, whatever, young is young. And you said he
Mhm.
was 12, like that's extremely young, and never be able to let that go. Or you can have that experience happen, and through the grace of God, like he spoke to you, so he kind of like nudged you in the right direction. But to be like, okay, like some good has come out of this, and like he basically told me, like sent me a message, like this tragedy had to happen for other good stuff to happen. And that does not eliminate the pain, it does not eliminate the sorrow, it does not eliminate the hole in your heart. Like all that still is there. Like that you'll carry that with you forever. Anyone who loses anybody they love, you'll carry that loss forever. But it doesn't cripple you, because you're able to pick yourself up, see the positive in life in general, but then how that positive is connected to that tragedy. I really think like that it's one of the key elements to living a good, happy, fulfilled life, is because like I said in the beginning, and I say it over and over and over again, but like everybody, like we're all going to experience death in our lives. Like we are all going to lose people that we love. Like there's no getting around that. So, and oftentimes, unfortunately, it's multiple times. Like we're all going to experience the death of many people that we love, and some will be tragic, some will be natural, some will be expected, et cetera, et cetera. But loss is loss. So if every time that happens, it crushes you and cripples you, like you're stripping yourself of life, and like you're not giving God the gift of living, which is he's given to us, and you're not honoring that by being like, oh, thanks, but this isn't good enough because I experienced loss. And he's like, everybody's going to lose people. Like you can't let that derail you for the rest of your life. So I love the word you use. I've never used that word before in describing it. I've always just said I find the silver linings, but I think underneath that phrase is determination to, and that's what it takes, is determination to find that silver lining, to find that glimmer of light, that hope, because it doesn't come naturally. It's not easy. It's not something you just wake up one morning and you're like, oh, I'm over it. Like I'm good. Life is back to
Mhm.
normal again. Like there's a lot of inner work that you have to do, and there's a lot of demons you fight through, and there's a lot of darkness that engulfs you that you have to shed away and welcome the light back in. But you have to be determined to do that work to get to that other side of it. Or like you said, it'll cripple you. And then what's the point of being on this earth if you're just going to go around like with a dimmed light. Like, as long as you're alive, yes, we sucks to lose other people, but we're still here. So let's let our light shine until eventually ours gets, put out and we go to the afterlife, and then other people have to be sorrowful. But hopefully by the way that we lived, that sorrow will be a quick fleeting moment, and people will find the silver lining in all the good that we did while we were here on this earth.
Right, right. And, like you say, everyone will experience loss. And you said some people experience lots of loss. And since my brother died, we have lost every other immediate family member in our family. So I have my brother left and an aunt. And to that point of the determination, last in July of 21, July 3rd, my grandmother passed away, and she is the one who gave me the spiritual foundation. I grew up, she would take me to church, and I spent a lot of time with her. Her home and her in general was my safe haven when I was trying to escape, the alcoholism from my home, and trying to escape my stepdad's anger and things like that. And she passed away, and that gutted me, but not as much as, a few months later in November, my mom being diagnosed with cancer again. And that time it was inoperable. And also, my husband's mother died the exact same day we found out about my mom. And so we went through, and her sister were living together, and her sister struggled with that, and made things a lot more difficult than they really needed to be during that time. And me and my brother, of course, we work, we have families, we don't live close by there. But every other weekend, me and my brother were up there taking care of my mom, taking care of our mom, and just being there. And I remember when we were told her cancer was back, me and her were not on the best of terms from her last cancer battle, just from some things that had happened, and I had kind of distanced myself. And so, I told my brother, I was like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to, I really did not want to help because of, a little bit of that strife and things that had happened before. And so at first I was a little resentful, because it was like she kind of reverted back to some bad habits. And, we think, well, if you would have made better choices, it probably wouldn't have happened. And so I struggled with that, but I was like, you know what? She's her own woman. She's an adult. She gets to make her own choices. And I have to learn to be okay with her choices, even though I know it's not the best. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting down with her and just kind of getting a lot of things off of my chest in the very beginning. And after I did that, I had more compassion for her and to her. And at that point, I wanted to help care for her. Because she decided not to do treatments that time. It was terminal, it was inoperable. There was really nothing that they could do. And so she went on hospice. And after our conversation, it allowed me to start viewing the moments differently. It allowed me, in a sense, to find that silver lining of, okay, we know what the end is going to be. We know what that means. But in the meantime, we can be together. We can help take care of her. We can show her that we love her. We can still laugh. We can still take pictures, even though we know where it's going to end up. We can still make the best of each moment and each day that we have with them, to be able to make new memories and share new laughs together, and just to love and care for them the best way that we know how, even though, again, we know what the end means. Yeah. But and I think that's really where that determination comes from, is knowing the outcome that will be, but choosing to make the best of each moment and be present when you're there, and just do whatever you feel like doing when you're together. If they want to talk, then talk. If they want to go somewhere or take a trip. And so my brother, got to take her to see one of her best friends, and her best friend got to come and see her. And there were some other friends that came and would stay and help care for her. And so the people that were really meant to be there and show my mom love were there and did so. But I feel a little sad for the one who looked at that time from a negative perspective and felt like it was, they just didn't look at it like they really could have, or just because of a mindset and things like that. And I feel sorry that they did not look at things better and make the most of that time, because they lost the same person. Yeah. Too. And so it's unfortunate, and to see how that person looked at things, but to also go back and know that we've lost the same people from whatever spectrum we were in that relationship, but we all experienced the loss, and they've maintained kind of like that negative mindset, but then not from a boastful way, but seeing that I made a more conscious choice to choose love and positivity. And even though it still hurts, to be able to heal and move on from that loss. But also it gives compassion when you deal with other people who are going through similar situations, to be able to give them that empathy and the compassion, and to be there and just share your heart with other people when they're going through the same thing. That lets them know that, hey, I understand where you're at. It is extremely difficult to get through. I'm here for you if you need, someone to talk to, someone just to sit and hold space with, and had it not been for a handful of people that I've connected with through the Apex group, honestly, it would have been a lot more difficult for me dealing with my mom, just because of some things that were going on, that wasn't necessary, in that moment, but people choose what they choose. And like we hear, you can choose your heart, in a sense. And it's sad, but not everybody is in the same place mentally. But that's why I do try to share my heart and vulnerability. If I post on social, just things that I've dealt with, or to help other people feel seen, or heard, or especially to show people love, just because the world is so crazy right now and people need that more and more each day.
Two things in the last piece of conversation you just had there that I want to give you kudos for. One is, which was kind of the overriding theme of everything, which is to make the most of what time you have and the situation
Mhm.
you're given. I think, again, like the whole find a silver lining, that's the other part of it too, is like life's not fair, period. Like it's not
Yeah.
fair that your mom got diagnosed a second time. It's not fair. My dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer and passed. It's not fair that your brother got, it's not fair that my 18-year-old cousin had a tree fall. Like it's not fair. Like life is not fair. But again, do you play that victim card through all that? Or do you have the determination to go, okay, it's not, but I'm still alive and I still have the opportunity to love and to share kindness and to, be there for others and to support others. And am I going to make the most of this situation, even though I'd rather not be here? Because like no one wants to be there watching their parent die. Like it's a
Yeah.
terrible thing to watch happen, but here we are. So what do I do with that situation now? So I think, people listening, you're going through something hard. Yeah, we all go through stuff that's hard. Sometimes it lasts for a couple of weeks, it's a day, it's an hour, it's 3 months, it's 6 years. Like it's irrelevant how long that difficulty lasts. You have to make the most of whatever situation you're in, or you're out of control. And the only way to be in control and to choose happiness and kindness and love is to be like, okay, this is what it is. I can't change this circumstance. This is out of my control. What I can control is how I react to it and how I participate in this situation. So that's a valuable lesson. But I think that's probably been like said many times before, and you probably all heard that before. But I think what was more powerful to hear you say was, because this I think a lot of people struggle with, and I don't know what percentage of people that struggle with it are ever strong enough, kind enough, empathetic enough to actually do what you did, which is, and I don't want to know the details. No one needs to know the details, but you said, your mom got diagnosed a second time and you were a little bit like resentful and kind of upset by it because her decisions may or may not, no one knows, but maybe probably contributed to that happening again. So there's the like intelligent, intuitive you that's like, and I'm like you thought like, you idiot, like why would you continue to do that? Like you put yourself in this position, like that's natural. Like you see people eat unhealthy or smoke cigarettes and you're like, part of you's like, you idiot, like why are you doing that? Like that's bad for you, like it's a bad road you're going down, stop doing that to yourself. But you can't control that. So in your situation, it's someone you really love, and it's now probably brought about like an ending that you don't want to see because you want to spend more time with that person, you love that person. A lot of people would just continue to hold on to that, you idiot, why did you do that? Like not like you
Mhm.
deserve this, but like you kind of deserve this. And like, and that anger that brings up, and like the resentment and like the, what are you thinking, and you should have done better and this is your fault, like that's all, again, like I keep saying over and over, that's the natural reaction to have in that situation. What I think is also natural but is very difficult to achieve is what you achieved and what you expressed, which was, okay, it is what it is. Like I'm gonna find compassion for her and I'm still gonna love her and I'm gonna make my time with her until the end comes, which I know is happening, as enjoyable for her, but I think just as much as enjoyable for yourself as possible. Because, and again, I don't want to know the details, but someone else wasn't able to achieve that. And that, call it whatever, 2 weeks, a month, couple months, where she was like diagnosed, the end is near, and then the end happened, could either have been a joyous occasion in many ways because you got to take pictures, you got to sit beside them, hold their hand, you got to take her on trips, you got to see her be with her best friend. Like in that sorrow and that pain, there's many, many moments of happiness and joy if you extract them from it and you focus on it. Or for that other person, it was a couple weeks or a couple months of pure misery, which was like anger, maybe even like degree of hate, and just like all those like negative feelings. Like you take a snapshot of like, let's call it a month of your month that you had with her and the month that that other person had with her. Any person that has any like sense of intelligence or intuition or anything would be like, I want what Amy had, because yeah, it sucks, but like for both of those people, she left. Like she died and she left. So like Amy had a month of good times despite that. This person had a month of like ugh, and still probably holds on to that because he never freed himself of or she themselves of that pain and misery. And now it's kind of like attached because they didn't process it while she was here. That's in death, and like watching that happen, that's the most extreme case for you to do that. So I think it's like extremely admirable, and I applaud you immensely for doing that and experiencing that and giving that gift to you and to her. But then even in a lesser sense and not such a drastic sense of death, and I struggle with this because the examples I just used of like people not working out, overeating, drinking, smoking, and there's a part of me that's just like, you idiots, like why are you doing this to yourself? And I mean, I'm fully transparent. Like I probably haven't done all the inner work that I need to do yet to just find compassion for them and to like let that part of me that looks at them and goes, what are you doing? Just completely let it go and just have love and compassion and empathy spill out of me towards them, because they're struggling with something, they have inner demons, or maybe they're like perfectly fulfilled human beings and it's just a bad habit they have, and so be it. Like we all have bad habits. So that lesson that you share with your mom in death approaching, I think is applicable to all of us in every situation in our lives as we interact with other people close to us and or strangers. When we hold that judgment in our heart and that's in our space of just like we're judging their actions and it doesn't align with what I believe is good, or and then it's just a negative or at best a neutral energy that we're sharing with them and feeding in ourselves, as opposed to just being like, hey, we're each our own person, we all make our own decisions, they're a human being underneath it all, they deserve to be loved and cared for and kindness to be shared with them underneath it all, and just stay in that space. I think it's, guilty as charged, like it's extremely difficult to do, but I think the more people can hear that and start to operate from that frequency, the world would be such a better place, because there'd be so much less judgment, there'd be so much more compassion, and with compassion comes kindness, and with kindness comes like caring, and with caring comes love, and with love comes like a vibrational energy that totally shifts from the major vibrational energy that kind of runs through the earth right now, which is this whole like just that's like dissipates
Yeah.
amongst all of us so much. And I'm like, why don't we all love each other? And then I'm like, well, Matt, because you're part of the problem, like you judge people, like we all got to get rid of that side. I
Yeah.
applaud you immensely that you shared that story, but more than that, that you went through that, and that in the time of where it would have been super easy for you just to continue to hold on to that, like why, your fault, your fault, your fault. Your heart was big enough and open enough to push right through that and then spend those last days or weeks or months or whatever it was with your mom in a loving space. I think, as now I'm a father, but as a son, I experienced the same thing with my dad, with watching him slowly dissipate and getting to spend those last couple of weeks with him when he was just kind of laying there, not able to talk, but we were able to. It's the greatest gift you can give someone. Like to me, I just answered someone on social media just today, was like, I wrote out my purpose, and one of them is live surrounded by love. And he was like, what does that mean? You just write it out. I was like, and long story short, when I'm ready to take my last breath on this earth, all I want is for my family to be around me. Like I just want my loved ones to be by my side. So when my spirit ascends into the next place, it's just like love sends it out. And I think you gave your mom that, and there's nothing greater in this world that you could have done for her. So
Yeah.
more power to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you say, it's in in the beginning, and it took um well, when she started back down, with the bad habits, I really struggled for a while. But it's just again that inner work that we have to do on ourselves, and knowing that we can only control us. We can only control how we behave, how we react to situations, and having to, understand that completely, because, we can never control someone else. And when we keep thinking that we can, it just creates more headache, more havoc with us, internally. And when we're able to come to that place of knowing that, okay, I can't control what they do, I can't control what they say, and they have to make their own choices, and stepping into, okay, this is just the way it is. It, in a sense, is a little bit freeing. It does kind of help remove that additional stress and worry, uh, because we are trying to control the situation, but knowing that we can't, and having to be okay with that. And it's definitely not easy to do.
Yeah.
I struggled for a long while with that, but afterwards, again, like I said, just, having to be okay, but knowing, okay, well, I can't control what they do, but I can control what I do.
Yep.
And it's, just getting to that point, like you say, of having to be okay and accepting, in a sense, of, okay, well, I can still show them love, I can still be there for them, I can still do certain things because I do love them, because that is my dad, that is my mom,
Yep.
Or brother or sister or whoever. And just realizing that, like you said, and I really like how you did that of, hey, I can stay locked in this dark victim mentality over here, or I can step into being that person of love and compassion instead. So it's choosing where you want to be. And I think it's more of, who you want the world to know you as well. And I think that kind of goes to, it not really having anything to do with status or business or anything like that, but how do you want other people to remember you when you're gone? A lot of people say, oh, leave a legacy, leave a legacy. And legacy can mean status and fame, or money and cars and flashy things like that. But a lot of people, and I think it goes to that quote, people may forget the things that you say,
Mm-hmm.
but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Yep.
So I think that's a big thing to keep in mind, um, of just knowing that you can only control you. And how do you want people to remember you?
Yeah.
When you
Because we're all going to be gone someday.
Yeah.
Sad as it is, like we're all on borrowed time and limited time. And I say that all the time too. I'm like, why do I care so much on a daily basis about like the energy I put out there and like the words I share with people and my ability to either positively or negatively impact people? I'm like, because I'm not guaranteed that I get to wake up tomorrow. And if, tomorrow
Yeah.
morning is the day my number gets called and I look back on the previous day and I'm like, oh shit, like I wish I knew
Yeah.
that was my last day because I blew it, or I said something negative, or I hurt somebody and I didn't have a chance to like erase that pain or to make amends on that mistake. Like I make plenty of mistakes, but like on a daily basis, I'm like, I don't want that to be my situation. Like I
Yeah.
want to close my eyes, have my soul float up, and I hope it's not for like decades from now. But again, we don't know. And when that time comes, I want to be able to look back behind me and be like, okay, I'm leaving this place better than when I got here, and the people that I'm like cosmically now saying goodbye to know that I'm
Mhm.
still in and with them, and I've always loved them, and I'll continue. Blah 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 blah. But like to me, that's the name of the game, because it's a really cool experience to be human. It's a painful experience to be human, and we get to choose really the impact that we leave when we're gone, and we're all going to be gone. So it's not a responsibility to be taken lightly, in my opinion. It's like the
Yeah.
most important responsibility we have as humans who are connected to other human beings, is what's that
Mhm.
impact that you have and how do you make people feel. So I think it's a phenomenal a lesson message to end on. Amy, I got to say to you, people don't know, before I hit the record button, there's always like a couple minutes of conversations back and forth. And Amy was like, I got the podcast nerves. And I was like, don't. Like, I had a feeling you were going to share some wisdom, and you far exceeded what I thought you might do. So I really appreciate you being here today. I appreciate you sharing everything that you shared with our audience. I think it's a very valuable, powerful episode that I'm excited to share with people, because said over and over again, but we're all going to experience loss. It's what you do with that loss and how you control it. So if people want to connect with you online, Amy, and get to know you a little bit better, just become friends with you to kind of gather some inspiration from you on a daily basis, what's the best way for people to find you on the internet?
They can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Amy Hesper.
Okay.
And if anybody is interested in checking out artwork, like what you see behind me, reflectionsbyhesper.com, and they can connect with me there.
I'm going to real quick look. You have the link tree, and I'm guessing on that link tree that you sent me, the artwork link is on there as well.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
that's all the social links. That will have the website link to the shop,
Awesome.
and it has a link to the book that I wrote as well.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, I'm going to check out your artwork because A, I love to support people that I know, like, and trust. B, from the few things behind you, that blue one especially, and then what's the, that's not the Firebird, no, what's the one? It's like the Falcon Rising, or there's a Phoenix, the Phoenix Rising. I was like, what's the bird? I know the name of this. Like, I almost got a tattoo of it. Why am I not thinking of this? So I'm definitely going to check it out and maybe get some for my kids' rooms. And I know if your energy is attached to it, it's good energy, and I like pouring good energy into my kids. So thank you, Amy, for being here. To everyone out there that's listening to this episode, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting what we're doing here. Thank you for sharing it with your friends and family who might need to hear this message. And let's all go out there, make the world a better place, and we will see you on the battlefield. Have a good day.